ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thursday Night Football tonight on 97.3 ESPN FM. We'll talk with Gino, Torretta, as we do each and every Thursday. Yes, the Heisman Trophy winner from 1992 and the national champion joins us each week to talk college football. We'll get in touch with him in about 20 minutes from now. As always, you can join the conversation at 609-403-0973, and you can DM into the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle, as the Eagles are making news again. But does it really matter? We'll dig deeper into that. Plus, my thoughts on Thursday Night Football. We'll get to all that and more coming up here on Game Night. Glad to have you guys on board the show today. You know, when I saw the news first come out, you know, I think I did what a lot of people did, was made sure it wasn't a fake Twitter account. That was the first thing I was doing. I was making sure that the name and, you know, all the particulars added up with the Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter accounts. Frankly, I actually saw Rap Sheet's tweet before I saw Schefter's tweet. So I don't know if that's a Twitter algorithm thing or not. I'm not, you know, above my pay grade. But there was a part of me that when I saw that, I immediately thought of two things. Like I said, number one, I was wondering, is this real? Number two, I thought, what exactly are the Eagles trying to do here? And here's why I said that. You know, if I'm sitting at a local establishment, okay, like, you know, Sundays, most of the football season, Billy Schweim in the locker room is live at yesterday's Creekside Tavern tomorrow morning, okay? So if I'm sitting there at yesterday's at the bar, right, and I'm watching a game, and I see something, and the person next to me sees the same thing, and the person next to them sees the same thing, and the person bartending sees the same thing, and the waitress sees the same thing, but the coaches don't see it, that's a huge problem. I always am a big believer in that. You know, if the average person can see something, but the people whose job it is to see things can't comprehend it or don't see it, that's always a huge issue of concern to me. And I feel like these two signings this week of Joseph and Sue, Linville Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, both Pro Bowl defensive tackles in the NFL during their veteran careers of over a decade, they both feel like the moves that the average person sitting with me at yesterday's in Marmora having a drink is going to say they should sign that guy, right? That's the gut reaction of those people, because when you're having conversation at the local, establishment, or you're, wherever you might be, the gym, the store, you're out with some buddies, you're hanging out at a friend's house, whatever maybe you're around the water cooler at work. People still do that. Anyway, water cooler at work. The idea, though, is that there are things that we all say in conversation that don't always happen in real life. And I was initially concerned about this, that the Eagles were making moves based on, what's that old saying? If you do what the fans tell you, you'll be sitting in the seats with them. So initially, I was a little concerned that these moves this week, especially the Ndamukong Suh one, I had some questions. I had some, thoughts running through my mind. Because if the average Joe would have said sign Sue and sign Joseph, then what are the Eagles doing? And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that this is not Howie Roseman being reactionary. This isn't, the owner of the Eagles, Jeff Lurie, calling down and saying, you better do something or else. This wasn't anything except for the Eagles trying to make a strategic move. I think this was actually, for all intents and purposes, to use a chess analogy, this is the equivalent of opening a chess match with your rook instead of your pawn. If you ever play chess, and I guess it's only those of us who are over the age of 30 have ever played chess at this point, because I feel like everyone has games on their phone to play now. But when you were younger and before you had a smartphone, and maybe you were at school, they might put checkers and chess out there. And, when I was a kid, and maybe for some of you out the same ways, checkers got boring after a while. So chess became interesting because it was a way to pass the time without the boredom of checkers, right? You felt like checkers was for kids, and when you get older, now you're playing chess. You're supposed to be older now, whatever that means, right? But the idea is that most of the time when you play chess, you start out with a pawn, right? You move them one or two spots up. And if you're playing chess at a higher level, you might actually start with moving your rook, because remember, the rook can jump over other pieces. So to me, when the person plays the rook first, that's a whoa. I got a dude who thinks he knows chess, or I got a woman who's some sort of chess advanced player, and well, that mean I was in trouble. So for me, I'm looking at the Eagles signing Sue and Joseph not like playing checkers. I think this is a chess move, because I think the Eagles made two decisions this week. Number one, I think they decided that they were not going to hope for the best moving forward. They were not going to hope that the players that they had were going to be good enough, because now your two primary nose tackles are on the injured reserve list. Jordan Davis, who you traded up the draft, he's going to be out for another few weeks. Marlon Tuipulotu, he's going to be out for another 4 weeks. So you're not going to ask Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, Milton Williams to play out of position, because what's going to happen is it's going to put you in a bad situation. And Jonathan Gannon feels very strongly about playing the front that he does, which is this 3 down linemen, no more than 2 linebackers, and then the overhang ends to come around the edge and get to the quarterback. And he wants to play that nickel corner. And I know the average fan out there is sitting there saying, but Josh, they could have played 4 or 5 down linemen, and they could have put maybe, a little less emphasis on the linebackers. Maybe put one of them out there. You're totally right. And maybe they still do that. There's no saying that the Eagles have to play the 3 down lineman look. But signing Joseph and Sue give you a level of maneuverability and flexibility that you didn't have before when you started that game on Monday Night Football. I asked this question to Mike Gill and Ryan Rothstein earlier on the Sports Bash show on 97.3 ESPN. I said to them in the 3 o'clock hour, I said, Nick Sirianni after the game said that he felt they could have made those defensive adjustments sooner, right? Now, this is the first time Sirianni's made a comment like this. He has made comments about the defense and adjustments before. There has to be a moment from the end of that game on Monday night, leading up to the last 2 days of signing Joseph and Sue, Joseph yesterday, Sue today, where Howie Roseman sat down with Nick Sirianni and or Jonathan Gannon and said, what gives, guys? What can we do moving forward? Because I don't see Gannon being some petulant child and storming into Howie Roseman's office like the coach on draft day and yelling at him, right? I don't see that happening. But what I do see is Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Eagles, have talked about they want a cooperation between the front office and the coaching staff. It is something that has been said by the owner and the GM and the coach multiple times, that there's a cooperative relationship. I have to believe that the Eagles always had an interest in bringing in more D linemen. And I think that they looked at the situation they were in, and I think this was not a very recent move. I think this might have been in the works for maybe a week or two, because the Jordan Davis not playing was something we've known for a little while. When he sustained that injury, what we think is a high ankle sprain. We don't know that officially, but that's been some of the speculative reporting out there. That's usually a 6 to 8 week recovery at minimum. So I have to think that since Thursday Night Football up through Monday Night Football, for 12 days, the Eagles were evaluating their options. And I think once that game happened, I believe what happened is Howie Roseman talked to Sirianni, talked to Gannon, and said, hey, our run defense has not been great this year. And now we looked worse than ever at certain points of the game on Monday night. How do we fix it? And it sounds like to me, based on these moves, that Sirianni and Gannon, the head coach and the D coordinator, told the GM, we need more bodies. We need more people. Go out and sign those guys. And I think that's why in this situation, the Eagles are playing chess and not checkers. Over on the text board, 609-403-0973. By the way, yes, it is the knight, not the rook. The rook is the castle-looking thing, and the knight is the horse-looking thing. So, yeah, you open with a knight. It's not a rook. So, shows you how long it's been since I played checkers. Is it chess? What game am I playing again? What day is this? It's Thursday? But I appreciate you guys texting in, correcting me. I always enjoy it when the first thing I see on the text board is people correcting me and not actually having a conversation with me. Obviously, I kid in some jest. Jeff in Ocean City chimes in at 609-403-0973 with an actual comment. He says, I'll be the first to admit I never had a lot of faith in Sirianni or Hurts, and now they're both my ride or dies. By the way, do you have any thoughts on the game tonight? Jeff, I'll get to you. I see that you sent in one idea. We'll break down the Thursday night football game deeper a little bit later. But, Jeff, it's an interesting point you made because I think there's a lot of people who they still look at Sirianni. They still look at Hurts the way they did when Sirianni first came on board and when Hurts was drafted. And Jeff in Ocean City seems like a guy that I would have a drink with because he says, hey, I thought one way to start. I'm willing to admit that I made a miscalculation in judgment, and I'm going to ride with these guys now because of what they've shown me. And I think that kind of goes with the Eagles' moves today as well. There's a lot of people who didn't like Howie Roseman. They hated the guy. And now we jokingly say in Howie we trust. Not because, Howie is this amazing guy or people suddenly changed all their feelings toward him. But I think people have to admit that things are different now. It's a little bit of a different vibe. And I think that what Jeff in Ocean City is trying to say is, look, I wasn't sure about Sirianni. I wasn't sure about Hurts. And now I'm with them. And I think Jeff is saying, look, if the Eagles say that signing Sue and Joseph is the answer to filling the void without Jordan Davis and Marlon Tuipulotu for the next several weeks, then it sounds like to me, Jeff in Ocean City is saying, I'm willing to give it a shot. I'm willing to, put in the faith into this organization to see how this plays out. And I think that's a rational, good way to look at it, because at the end of the day, whether this move is the right or the wrong move, I can promise you one thing. The Philadelphia Eagles are in it to win it. And when you're in it to win it, you will make every move you have to, checkers or chess, to get to that championship. Josh Hennig here on Game Night 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle. We'll check back on the text board a little bit later, as well as my thoughts on Thursday football. But coming up next, the 1992 Heisman Trophy winner, national champion at the University of Miami, Gino Torretta, joins me here on Game Night Talk College Football next on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle.
This is the radio home for Philadelphia Eagles football. The Eagles continue the 2022 season this Sunday in Indy against the Colts.
The Eagles have it, so they get it right back. The hit by Josh Sweat.
This defense can set the tone.
Pre-game coverage starts at noon with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action starting at 1 p.m. This is where the Philadelphia Eagles play. 97.3 ESPN South Jersey's official Eagles station.
Matt Blatt Mitsubishi in Glassboro, offering you huge discounts. Now you can get a great deal on a brand new Mitsubishi. Online at mattblatt.com.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's Incredible Crab Specials Wednesdays this fall. 2 pounds of snow crab legs for $49.99 or 2 pounds of snow crab legs and 4 hard shells for $79.99. Thursdays is Chicky and Pete's Go Birds Wing Special. Whatever the Eagles score on Sunday, get that percentage off your wings on Thursday. Higher score, bigger discount. Plus our fall specialty menu with the mouth-watering garlic truffle burger and B-Dog Impact Nachos. Enjoy a pumpkin shanty or a smoked apple cider margarita. Chickies and Pete's. Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. And we know Saturdays in the fall are special. Why? College football. And we have you covered with food and drink specials and the best in-game experience to watch your team or the college football game of the week. Come watch Penn State, Temple, Villanova, Notre Dame, Texas, Michigan, Georgia, and more. College football Saturdays are special at Chickies and Pete's.
You wash your hands, you brush your teeth, but what about the nose? How do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, flushing out allergens, mucus, and germs. And it's why cleaning your nose, the body's air filter, is the next evolution in daily personal hygiene. People try Navage for lots of reasons. Sinusitis, colds, allergies, snoring, things that make it hard to breathe through your nose. But over time, they find that cleaning their nose makes them feel better, a lot better. Over 3 million Navage users have written more than 100,000 reviews, averaging 4.7 stars, saying, best product I've ever used, and amazing. I love my Navage. Navage helps you breathe better, sleep deeper, and snore less, but the biggest payoff is improved health. Navage is good personal hygiene and can help you stay healthier. At Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
When choosing a wireless provider, you're forced to compromise. But what if you didn't have to? What if you could get reliable service without a contract and save money? Introducing Total by Verizon, a new no-contract, no-credit check carrier for you and your family, with plans starting at just $30 a month on America's most reliable 5G network. Total by Verizon is available at totalbyverizon.com and at retailers nationwide, based on first-place rankings and RootMetrics first half 2022 5G assessments of 125 metros. Experiences may vary, not an endorsement.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Starting trouble. No one likes that. We'll get you set up for some stronger starts. You might just need a fresh charge, and we'll take care of that free of charge.
But if it is time for a new battery, we've got replacement batteries that'll fit your needs, starting at just $69.99.
You can learn more about our battery selection at AutoZone.com. That's what makes us America's #1 battery destination.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Claim based on data from the NPD Group 2021.
Dancing crew, trip for two, nail the final interview. Game with Doug, brand new mug. Come here, kid, give me a hug. The more you want to do, the more we want to do. Boosters designed for COVID-19 variants are now available. If you've had your primary series, schedule an updated COVID-19 booster appointment as soon as you're eligible. Sponsored by Pfizer and BioNTech.
At the Home Depot, we have Black Friday savings all through November. And with that comes a joyful holiday bustle that we just love to hear. Although we also love the sound that comes after the holidays, when people put their new tools to use. In fact, we love it so much. When you buy select Milwaukee M18 kits, you'll get an extra tool for free. So after you're done filling the air with holiday magic, you can fill it with the sounds of doing. The Home Depot, how doers get more done.
Introducing the next-gen Acura Integra, featuring an available 6-speed manual transmission, a VTEC turbo engine, and available ELS Studio 3D audio system.
Legendary.
And its most important feature, you. The next-gen Acura Integra. Your turn.
Visit your Delaware Valley Acura dealer to find your Acura today.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night being brought to you by Jenkins & Sons. One call does it all. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, or the plumbing guy, because Jenkins technicians are trained the do-it-all. For new heating and air installation, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, oil service, plumbing, and drain cleaning services. Call 609-641-6262, online at jenkinsandsons.com. We are counting down the weeks for this college football season as things are starting to get very interesting, and to get more into it is the 1992 Heisman Trophy winner, college football analyst with the Touchdown Radio Network, Gino Torretta, joins us each week, talk college football here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Gino, welcome back. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. It'd be a quiet season, I guess, if the season ended this week. You know, we got 4 teams at 10-0, but you and I both know that 2 and 3 play each other in another week, and it should be some chaos, I think, in these last few weeks with who's in the top 4, who's going to win the Heisman, and all that fun stuff.
You know, Gino, it's funny because, you know, on one hand, you're like, I can't believe the season is getting that much closer to the end. But on the other hand, you want to see, like you said, you want to see the Michigan-Ohio State game play out because you want some more finality with all of these conversations and what ifs.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, obviously, we know 2 and 3 are going to play, so you know you would think that the winner of Ohio State Michigan is definitely in. I mean, the Big Ten West is far behind Ohio State and Michigan, so you'd think they'd end the season undefeated. So how far does the loser drop? What happens? You know, is TCU going to win out? They still got to go on the road to Baylor this week, playing the Big 12 championship game. LSU's playing Georgia in the SEC championship game. What happens if LSU beats Georgia? Is Georgia still in? Is Tennessee then in and LSU in? Or does LSU victory put Tennessee and Georgia in and not themselves? And then Southern Cal, you know, this far into the season, they're 9-1, but really their season these next few weeks is backloaded. They got UCLA, one of the better teams on their schedule. Then they got to go to Notre Dame, and then the Pac-12 championship game, which, you know, if they're sitting at 1 loss and their only loss is a, you know, road loss by a couple to Utah, you'd have to think SC would be in the Final Four. So I think there can be a lot of things happen in these next few weeks that change these top 4.
I want to zero in on one of the teams you just mentioned because the last couple of weeks, you and I have been talking about TCU, and we both were looking ahead to that TCU-Texas game at Texas, not in TCU's backyard. That was Texas Longhorn country that they went in. And, Gino, it wasn't their offense. It was their defense that got the job done. You know, most of the year the story's been Max Duggan and Sonny Dykes being the new head coach, but TCU's defense showed up pretty good in that game.
Defense, and they pounded the rock on the ground. That's the one thing I was most impressed with. It wasn't pretty, like you said, but you know, I think that when you look at this season, it's like, man, Alabama's played well. You know, hasn't played well on the road. Tennessee got smoked against Georgia on the road. Teams have not been able to go on the road and win convincingly. They have struggled. Even Georgia struggled against Missouri. So I think that you know, when you look at this, it's like how, you know, everybody seems to be playing pretty good at home. It's how you play on the road, and TCU has been able to, you know, go on the road. And I thought, like you said, they looked a little bit different in that game. They just found a way to win.
When you think about TCU moving forward, obviously most people think that, you know, the most talent on the field is teams like Georgia and Ohio State. But, you know, what is the gap in your mind between a TCU and those other teams?
Well, I think I don't know if it's necessarily the top line guys. I think it's more of the depth. I mean, you know, go back to, you know, Alabama when Jalen Hurts was there and they pull him out and then they throw in Tua. You know, I don't think that TCU has that kind of, you know, that kind of depth across the board. I think obviously, you know, the Georgias, the Ohio States, even Michigan, they have that depth where, you know, they're rotating and they probably have 7 studs on the defensive line where they can rotate and keep guys healthy. if they get an unfortunate injury, the backup is there, and there's not a lot of drop off. That's where I think that if there was a weakness with TCU, it's just they don't have the depth of a Georgia and Ohio State and Michigan. But I think their top line guys can play with anybody.
So another team you mentioned, a team that we've also talked about throughout the years, USC, Lincoln Riley, Caleb Williams, but Travis Dye goes down with that injury. You have to wonder what TCU is long-term. I'm sorry, USC is you long-term. So, I'm curious in your mind, because you've seen USC play this year, can they make that run? Because they do not have an easy schedule down the stretch here.
Not at all. Not at all. I think obviously, they got UCLA, who's one of the better teams in the Pac-12, then Notre Dame, then the Pac-12 championship game. I thought when we broadcast their game against Stanford, I didn't think they had the big boys up front on the offensive front and the defensive front where, they could hang with the Ohio States, the Michigans, and the Georgias of the world. They have the skill guys. Caleb Williams been outstanding. Addison has kind of been banged up. Their skill guys have been banged up, and then you mentioned Dye, who's now out, that gave them some balance. So I think that this week against UCLA is going to be a test, and then next week against Notre Dame is going to be a different test. But I will say this, that there's a guy that won the Heisman, and I believe it was 2003. By the name of Carson Palmer, and he basically solidified winning the Heisman with some big performances, especially against Notre Dame at the end of the year. And Caleb Williams is going to have that opportunity down the stretch to have those kind of games against big-time opponents.
1992 Heisman Trophy winner and national champion at the University of Miami, Gino Torretta, joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, the Touchdown Radio Network Game of the Week this week. Gino will be on the call on the radio for Ohio State versus Maryland. Gino, you mentioned the Heisman, and I'll never forget what you said last week, because you said that a lot of times for these people, it's the last thing you see. It's the last player you see. And I can't get that out of my head, because I keep wondering, is it possible that the winner of Ohio State, Michigan doesn't just decide the Big Ten, but maybe also decides the Heisman?
Oh, there's no question. And I would say that it's even one more week, because let's say, for example, Hendon Hooker. He's right in that discussion as Tennessee's quarterback. Got stats as good as anybody in the country. He's played as well as anybody in the country. He's not going to be in the SEC championship game.
Right.
He's not going to be playing that weekend that either Blake Corum or C.J. Stroud is, or Stetson Bennett is, or even May, the quarterback in North Carolina, is. So he's got one less chance to put on a show. And that's where it's almost like out of sight, out of mind. I mean, go to last year's race. If Bryce Young doesn't do what he did against Georgia, I think, it's a totally different winner at the end of the year. And I think that's the, the thing that when you're up for it, you want to have as many opportunities to show out and to ball against the best talent and the best defensive guys. And I think that, Hendon Hooker will probably get hurt a little bit because of that. But these other guys that are all up for it are going to have extra opportunities. And I think those conference championship games now, are definitely, can be or will be a deciding factor.
It's so intriguing to me because, Blake Corum, CJ Stroud, these are two guys who've had amazing seasons, but we haven't seen a lot of running backs, win in recent years, in the last 20 years. And, there was a time where I felt like running backs were running almost all the time in the 80s and 90s. It was either running back or quarterback. That was it seemed like, for years. And then in the last 20 years, that has changed a lot. Do people hold against running backs a little bit, you think? Is Blake Corum at a disadvantage, you think, Gino?
Well, I think he's at a disadvantage based on the offenses guys are running. I mean, you look at Tennessee's offense, the amount they're throwing the ball. I mean, if when I played, if you averaged close to 300 yards passing, that was, top 5 in the country. Now, that's not top 5 in the country anymore. I mean, these guys right now, we're 10 weeks in. These guys have 35 touchdowns, almost 40 touchdowns. 10 games into the season, I think I had 20 in a 12-game season. So it's a different, type of game because it's spread, it's wide open, and the statistics of the running backs just aren't there. I mean, if you have a multi-dimensional running back, you're probably using the guy more out of the backfield as a receiver than you are just, giving the rock to Rashaan Salam and getting 2,000 yards at Colorado and winning the Heisman Trophy. It's just a different type of offense nowadays, and I think that's why you see, more quarterbacks. You even see some discussion with receivers. Hutchinson, the defensive end, was, the runner-up last year because those are the guys that affect the quarterback. And I think it's just a matter of time. The offenses are they throw the ball so much more, and nobody seems to like handing it off and pounding the rock anymore.
When you look ahead to what Ohio State has, because you're going to see them again this week, and you've seen them a couple times this year. You've seen Michigan also this year. What do you think is going to be the biggest difference for those teams heading down the stretch before they play each other? Because obviously they still got to get through this weekend. Most people, we expected Michigan to beat Nebraska. We expect Ohio State to beat Maryland. But what can those teams do in those kind of games to prepare themselves for this showdown?
Stay healthy. I think, you look at what Ohio State is going to need Henderson and Mayan Williams in the backfield. They're going to need all of their weapons healthy when they're playing the best talent. And I think that obviously that we've talked about the Big Ten and the line of demarcation of how much better Michigan and Ohio State are versus the rest of the conference. So when you're playing your biggest game, you want to be your healthiest. And we know Ohio State, has not been. They've had multiple injuries at running back. And they're one of the few teams that tries to stay more balanced, I think, than other schools. But you don't want to be one-dimensional on either side of the ball. And I think that, C.J. Stroud doesn't have a running game. Doesn't matter how good his receivers are. The other side will tee off. They will blitz you. They'll bring pressure. And, those usually end up being long days for the quarterbacks.
You mentioned the quarterback. That's kind of where I want to go with you next, Gino, because you look around college football this weekend. Obviously, this is, for a lot of people, it's the weekend before the weekend. But there are still some very big games this weekend. And I want to ask you, we mentioned USC earlier. I want to go back to them because Caleb Williams and Max Duggan, these are two guys that, they're not really talked about in the Heisman Trophy conversation, but they're both having very interesting years for very different reasons. But they're both in that national spotlight because they both have their teams in position to potentially be in the college football playoffs. So what are your thoughts on those two quarterbacks?
Well, I think, Caleb Williams has had an outstanding year at USC. He's got great talent around him. Like I said, only one loss. He's put up phenomenal numbers. He has probably the toughest road in the next few weeks, but a tough road means a lot more people are watching your games. I mean, they got UCLA, who's in the top 20 this week. Then they got Notre Dame. Then they're going to have the Pac-12 championship game. So I think that, he's going to have opportunities, big time opportunities with more people watching USC's game, because of those types of opponents. And then I think Dugan's kind of the same. He's going to have an opportunity. Here he's got to go on the road against Baylor. They're not favored by much. I mean, there's some interesting lines this weekend in college football where you're like, how are they only favored by a couple, or you'd think it would be the other way. So that's interesting. But they're going to have the conference championship games, and like it or not, TCU's been a great story and they're fun to watch. But a lot of their victories have been ugly victories, and you hold your breath that you're going to continue, eking those ones out. But you're never surprised when the ball doesn't bounce your way. But those two guys definitely have opportunities. I would probably say Williams has more of an opportunity because he is at a program like USC. He's got UCLA this weekend, then Notre Dame, to where he could vault himself to the top of that Heisman discussion.
Yeah, the USC, USC UCLA game is going to have even more eyeballs potentially because of the fact that this might be the worst bedlam since like the mid 90s going on this weekend between Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. I mean, I have no idea what either one of those schools are doing. So to me, you have UCLA, USC kicking off at 8 o'clock, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma kicking off at 7:30. I wouldn't be surprised if double the people are watching the Pac-12 rivalry than watching the Big 12 rivalry.
I don't think there's any question. I mean, seriously, like Bedlam, how is Oklahoma favored by 7.5? I mean, I don't bet, but I'm just like, I mean, they're 5-5 at home against a 7-3 Oklahoma State.
Gino, they are hard to watch. I mean, watching Oklahoma is like you're scratching your eyes out right now.
Their defense against TCU could have been one of the worst performances defensively I've ever seen in a game where they were just getting run up and down the field. That is just, to me, is really surprising. But I think it's a tremendous opportunity. I think that the other game at that same time slot, Ole Miss Arkansas, where people want to see, okay, is Ole Miss going to bounce back after after losing last week?
Gino, one more I want to ask you about before I let you go. You are calling Ohio State and Maryland. The flip side of that conversation, because I asked you about, what Ohio State, you said they got to stay healthy. Take the audience in as a player, what it's like for a guy on the field in a game like that. The big rivalry game is the next week. An important game is next weekend, but you still got to play this Saturday. Take the audience inside what that is like.
Well, I think that what you do is you change your goals. I mean, Ohio State's favored by a lot. We would all expect them to win the game. So I think as a player, I think even as a coaching staff, what you try to convey to the players is, hey, we're going out and we're going to try to, pedal the metal, fastballs at the start of the game, and then you're trying to essentially be out of the game by halftime. You want to let the backups in, you want to let the 13 guys in because you don't want to get dinged up before Michigan's game, before your real rivalry game. So your goals as an individual and as a team just change. You want everybody on your roster, to have a chance to play. And I think that's how you prepare, and that's how you stay focused, because you kind of give yourself a challenge of, okay, how quickly can we dominate? How much can we dominate early in this game to where we can let, our teammates play more that haven't played as much? And that's at least what we used to do as Miami, is just kind of based on the game, based on our opponent, based on what what we had next week was, here, this is what our goals are. Our goals are going to be, we want to be out of the game, by halftime. We want to be out of the game after the first quarter and go out there and try to do it.
Last week, Maryland lost 30-0 to Penn State, marking the 5th straight week they did not cover the spread. So for those who care, the 27.5 for Ohio State probably is looking pretty good for you. Gino Torretta will be on the call, part of Touchdown Radio Network's coverage of college football. Maryland, Ohio State this Saturday, and Gino joins us each Thursday to talk college football here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Give him a follow on Twitter at Gino Torretta. Appreciate you jumping on, Gino. Enjoy the weekend.
Anytime, Josh. You too.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night, 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. We'll get back to the text board in just a bit. 609-403-0973 and your DMs to 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle.
Kevin Kugler here from Westwood One. Thursday Night Football coming up with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers hosting Ryan Tannehill and the 6-3 Tennessee Titans. Green Bay is coming off a big win over the Cowboys, breaking a 5-game losing streak. Can they make it 2 wins in a row and get their season back on track? Join me and Ben Lieber from Lambeau Field to find out on Thursday Night Football.
Listen to Thursday Night Football on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 7:30.
Don't let time pass you by. Door-busting Black Friday sales are going on now and all month at Matt Blatt Mitsubishi. Matt Platt Mitsubishi wants your trade, even if you're stuck in a loan or lease. Matt Platt Mitsubishi wants to get you released, and you'll get more for your trade when you purchase any select new 2022 Mitsubishi SUV, plus every new Mitsubishi Outlander SUV. Put 0 down and pay only 1.9% APR financing for 36 months. Worried that your credit will keep you from getting a new ride? Matt Platt Mitsubishi knows bad things happen to good people. We finance your future, not your past, even if your credit is less than perfect. So if you have a job clearing $350 per week, simply Matt Platt Mitsubishi. Unapproved with Tier 1 credit, rebates and incentives to dealer. Go to mattplattmitsubishi.com for complete details. Plus tax, license, registration fees. Offers can't be combined. Expires 12/4/22. So come in today and get your deal your way. Located right in the heart of Glassboro for over 30 years.
I'll second guest dinners with friends because they can be interrupted by diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or oily stools. It turns out I have EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, which means I'm missing the enzymes needed to digest food. My doctor prescribed Creon, pancrelipase, an oral prescription medication that replaces pancreatic digestive enzymes. Creon treats EPI due to cystic fibrosis, chronic pancreatitis, pancreatectomy, or other conditions.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall. If you're allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon.
Creon is the #1 prescribed EPI treatment. Ask your doctor about Creon for EPI and visit creoninfo.com or call 800-633-9110 to learn more. That's CREONinfo.com.
Hurry into Mattress Firm's Black Friday sale. Get a king bed for the price of a queen or a queen for a twin and save up to $700. Plus, get a free adjustable base with qualifying Sealy purchase. Or shop Tempur-Pedic and save $500 on select adjustable mattress sets. Plus, get a $300 instant gift. Mattresses and bases are in stock for fast delivery. With our Love Your Mattress guarantee, get the lowest price and 120 nights to sleep on it. Only at Mattress Firm. Restrictions apply. See store or mattressfirm.com for details.
At my age, I never dreamed I'd be dealing with opioid addiction.
I was pregnant and I couldn't stop. Getting sidelined by an injury was bad, but the cravings were way worse.
Then I heard about 844-REACH-NJ.
They connected me to treatment and I had a healthy baby.
844-REACH-NJ was the call that made the difference.
Thank goodness I made the call.
So glad I made the call for both of us.
REACH-NJ. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, call 844-REACH-NJ from the New Jersey Department of Human Services.
Not sure how much you know about Progressive Insurance. You may know us for insuring your home and auto. You may know a couple of our commercials. But what you may not know is that since 2013, Progressive has been honoring veterans with vehicle donations through the annual Keys to Progress Veteran Vehicle Giveaway Program, giving back to those who gave so much. Now, you probably didn't wake up today saying, I really wish I knew more about Progressive Insurance, but this seemed like the type of thing people wouldn't mind hearing about. Find out more about how we're dedicated to our customers and communities at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Did you know Kohl's has early holiday deals on the top toys? It was a game changer for me. I got Kohl's Cash and all my kids' favorites, like Marvel must-haves starting at $11.99, Squishmallows for $25 and under, a Fisher-Price Dreamhouse for $49.99, and found so much more. Plus, you can take an extra 20% off or save even more with the Kohl's card. More gifts, more savings, more reasons to get to Kohl's. Select styles, 20% offer ends November 19th. Toys, coupons do not apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
We get it. You're not going to work just anywhere. You're smart, ambitious, and you want to help others. You want a place where you can thrive, feel fulfilled, and have an opportunity for growth, all while making an incredible living. Right now is the perfect time to join the team at Town Square Media as a marketing consultant. Join one of the fastest growing digital companies in America, where you get to help build client solutions with real local influencers and sell brands like TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. If this sounds exciting to you, let's have a conversation. Our comp package is amazing with unlimited earning potential, including base salary, mobile phone, auto expense, 401k match, trip incentives, and more. If you're competitive, driven, and have the ability to communicate great ideas, we'd like to hear from you. With digital advertising expected to double over the next 3 years, the timing could not be better. Reach out to Mike Rubel, Market President, at 609-910-5249 or visit careers.townsquaremedia.com. Town Square Media is an equal opportunity employer.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night being brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook inside Bally's off the boardwalk in Atlantic City, where you can bet, watch, and win all season long. Of course, NFL Thursday football tonight, college football all day Saturday. Eagles play this Sunday, Monday Night Football, Sixers in action tomorrow night, Flyers in action tonight and Saturday, or the World Cup. Whatever you want to get in on all the action, do it with 10 betting kiosks, 5 betting windows, 13 big screen TVs, and plenty of comfortable seating inside the FanDuel Sportsbook at Bally's off the boardwalk in Atlantic City. Go get it on all the action this season. FanDuel wants every bettor's experience to be enjoyable and fun. Visit FanDuel.com/playwell. Learn more. Must be 21 or to play and present in New Jersey to bet online. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. I'll get to my thoughts on Thursday football in just a bit. I just want to follow up on one of the couple of the things that we were talking about. First of all, what Gino said. I think Gino literally just gave you 2 picks in that segment there. He was literally telling you, hey, that Bedlam number, you know where to go with that number. He basically just told you, if you're someone who's interested, that 7.5 for Oklahoma State, he doesn't like that number. He don't like it. He thinks it's fishy. And, it's funny because, like I said, it's a horrible Bedlam matchup. That's usually one of the best rivalries. I would argue it's a top 5, top 10 college football rivalry, and this year it's going to be a hard to watch game. And the other game, he was saying that he doesn't understand the number. He kind of mentioned it in passing, but didn't get too deep into it. But he said there are a couple games that only have a very small number difference in terms of the spread. Well, for those who are wondering tonight, Tulane is only 3.5 against SMU. I think Gino might be trying to tell you something, guys. Tulane has covered the number in 4 straight before their loss last week. And you could argue last week might have been more of an anomaly than anything else. Meanwhile, SMU's also scoring a lot of points. So just keep that in mind. When the analyst who doesn't do the game picks gives you a little extra analysis, it's always good to pay a little extra attention when that happens. Back to the conversation we were having before the break. Because I want to get back to what Jeff in Ocean City had chimed in at 609-403-0970, talking about how, he didn't believe in Sirianni and Hurts before, and now he's riding with them. And he kind of, parlayed that into our conversation about Howie Roseman, about how the Eagles have gone out there and brought in Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. I think it's very important to, as people, when you're someone who's willing to grow and evolve and be a little more than just some stubborn person who has to be right all the time, or be someone who, refuses to move off a point because it's more important for you to stand by your original opinion than it is for you to admit that you were wrong. Whatever the subconscious reasoning is, I think it's very important that, we always remember that, sports is constantly proving us all wrong, right? Think about it. Most people, and I don't really know anybody thought differently, maybe there's some random person that I don't know about, but everyone that I heard and saw thought that the AFC West was going to be one of the best conferences, one of the best divisions in all the NFL. And come to find out, it's one of the worst. The Broncos look completely inept offensively with a guy that most people believe is a future Hall of Famer, Russell Wilson, a guy who was the offensive coordinator for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay and Nathaniel Hackett, their offense is horrible. The Raiders look like a dumpster fire. They were supposed to go in there and upgrade the culture and upgrade the organization. They brought in all these Patriots guys with Josh McDaniel, and their culture looks like it's gone completely sideways. And you look at the Chargers, they just can't stay healthy. Rashawn Slater, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, they got guys in and out of the lineup every week getting injured. J.C. Jackson, it's just a mess out there. So the only team that's out there in the AFC West is the Chiefs. And I think a lot of people were, writing them off because there was no Tyreek Hill. And you could argue right now that the leading candidate for MVP is Patrick Mahomes because of what he's doing without Tyreek Hill, without some of the, production and players that you expected them to. I mean, their running back situation is completely confusing. Nobody fully understands it. So there's a lot of times in sports that we have predisposed ideas going into a season, and it's important to grow and, try to evolve as human beings and not be so stubborn when it comes to some of this stuff. I mean, I like to try to pride myself on growing throughout a season. Look, when I started the season, it was rough sledding for a couple of weeks for me. I was either under 500 or barely 500 with my NFL picks. Well, after NFL Week 10, I'm 39-26. I went from being 7-7 and 10-9 and all those numbers. I went 5-2 last week. Not because I'm the smartest guy in the world, but because I was trying to learn and get better. I was trying to grow as a person who watches the game. And so, anybody can do this. It doesn't matter who you are. And I think Jeff in Ocean City is a perfect example of that. Jeff in Ocean City said, you're hiring this Sirianni guy and you fired the Super Bowl winning head coach. You're drafting Jalen Hurts, but you already have Carson Wentz. And Hurts is a lot of question marks around him. And Jeff in Ocean City has grown and said, hey, now I'm riding with them. And that's why Jeff is winning his bets when he sends those screenshots into me on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. And some of you out there are still hanging on to these ideas and these opinions that are just so difficult to rationalize. So to Jeff in Ocean City, I appreciate you. You asked my thoughts on Thursday football tonight. Look, I don't think that you're going to see a lot of scoring tonight. I think that's the biggest thought I have on this game tonight. When the Packers won in overtime last week, you could argue that's a big reason why that they hit that over, okay? Aaron Rodgers breaking out at the end of that game was a huge part of them getting the over. Before that, they had hit the under in 2 of their last 3 games. Meanwhile, the Titans, they've hit the under in 5 straight games. So I think it's fair to say that over-under Josh is back in the house. Or as some people call me, the destroyer of hopes and dreams. Yes, I'm taking the under in this game. Jeff in Ocean City asks, what about anytime touchdown for Derrick Henry? I mean, I don't like it because the value isn't good. It's minus 145. If you're going to parlay that with something else, okay, maybe. I'm just not a fan in general of, if I'm a big believer in finding value. If you were to tell me you were going with Christian Watson or Allen Lazard anytime touchdown, I feel better about that. But unless you're parlaying Henry with something else. Thursday football coming up tonight on 97.3 ESPN. But right now, caller number 6 and 7, you are in for 99 bottles. 609-573-3776. 609-573-3776. Caller 6 and 7, you are in for 99 bottles. Maynard's and Margate next week. Today is one of the final days for you to qualify. 2 more qualifiers today, 5 more hours of qualifying tomorrow, and that's it. So call right now, 609-573-3776.